Grace and peace, family. Grace and peace. If you can hear me, do me a favor and put a 1 in the chat. If you can hear me, please put a 1 in the chat. All praises to the Most High. Family, we have been having a lot of technical difficulties tonight, and that's why I have started the way I have started. It was accidental, but all praises be unto the Most High. I'm here, and He's going to work it all out tonight. I want to thank y'all so much for coming in and coming on. We have a powerful discussion tonight with Q2UA. All right, Quest to Unite Africa is going to be a very, very powerful and important discussion. So do me a favor and get those thumbs up, get the shares out. We are going to be having an amazing conversation tonight with the entire Q2UA leadership team. But before we get started, what I'm going to go ahead and do is welcome in the family. I'm not going to go ahead and do my traditional greetings because of the internet issues, but I'm going to welcome the family in, and then we're going to get started on our discussion. So I want to welcome in Brother Karis. Peace and blessings, Brother Karis. How you doing?
Hey, shalom, salama, siyemi, shalom. How are you doing, Sister Ashanda? How's everybody doing this late? Because, I'm usually on the flip side of the day. So I'm not trying to stay up past my bedtime because, I got a lot of things to do tomorrow.
I know that's right. We all going to try to behave tonight. I'm doing well. All things considered, I'm doing well. And it's so good to see you again here, my brother. And with that in mind, I want to welcome in Sister Shar into the building. Peace and blessings, Sister Shar. How you doing tonight?
Hey, shalom, peace and blessings. Thank you so much for hosting this conversation tonight. Peace and blessings.
Thank you so much for being on. As always, it's always good to see you. And with that in mind, I'm going to welcome in my next sister, Sister Patea. Please welcome into the building. How you doing, sis?
I am doing well, Sister Ashanda. Peace and blessings to everybody here on the chat.
Hallelujah. All right. So we got next Brother Walt in the building. Peace and blessings, Brother Walt. Welcome tonight to
What it is. Shalom, family. How y'all doing?
We all right. And be what it be. You know what I'm saying?
Be what it be.
A welcome aboard. And with that, we have Sister Princess in the building. Peace and blessings, sister.
Shalom, everyone. Ashanda, appreciate it.
You are very, very welcome. And thank you so much for coming on, sis. And last but certainly not least, we have Big Bro, Big Red up in the house. Peace and blessings, my dear bro. How you doing?
What's good, everybody?
We're doing all right. So listen up. We're going to have an amazing conversation tonight. Before we do, we want to go ahead and remind everyone why we are here. We are here because obviously the Most High brought us. So all praises be unto Him. But we are specifically meeting tonight because we want to, all month long, bring to the table influencers, leaders among Yasharel because of the United Nations Day of Remembrance, International Day of Remembrance for the victims of the transatlantic slave trade. And so with that in mind, I would like to air this video for those of you who are unaware of what's going on.
The Ark of Return is a powerful reminder of the tragic legacy of slavery in the transatlantic slave trade, an initiative of the Caribbean community and the African Union. It serves as an opportunity for reflection on the more than 18 million men, women, and children that were enslaved and transported in harsh conditions to the Americas. Years ago, I visited Gorée Island in Senegal, which was the largest slave trading center on the African coast from the 15th to the 19th century. I saw the small spaces, imagining the crowded rooms where the enslaved persons were packed. I will never forget the feeling of sorrow and distress, thinking on those who went through the very small door overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, a point of no return. The Ark of Return, much like Gorée Island, seeks to remind us of the brutality of slavery in the slave trade. Slavery was not only a dreadful individual ordeal, but a cultural trauma whereby a group of people was subjected to such inhuman pain and torture that it dehumanized their existence, their group identity, values, feelings, and their cultural worldview. The theme of the International Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery in the Transatlantic Slave Trade this year is Stories of Courage, Resistance to Slavery, and Unity Against Racism. It is important to learn from history and listen to the stories of those who were stolen from their homeland, children who were snatched away from their families, daughters who were raped, sons who were sold, fathers who were emasculated, and mothers who were tortured till they dropped dead. We must discuss the legacy of slavery, especially in the marginalization of persons of African descent who are still denied justice and equality. We must stand in solidarity, united against these inequalities. This dark chapter of our history should never be whitewashed. Let us raise our voices as we continue to fight against racism and prejudice around the world, inspired by the stories of courage, resistance to slavery, and unity against racism.
All right. Well, that was a very powerful video. And this is a very, very important day that's coming. And I want to make a correction. I spoke on the last live, and I said that this day will be celebrated on March 25th, but it's actually going to be on March 24th, Sunday, March 24th. So please forgive me for that misspoken date, and prepare yourselves for this day on Sunday, March 24th. So with that in mind, we want to have the discussion tonight specifically about forging beyond the transatlantic slave trade. And I thought it was very important to invite Quest Unite Africa for this important discussion, because there are a lot of things that we know as brothers and sisters who are throughout the diaspora who have been interested in learning more about our not only Hebrew culture, but where we come from on the continent, and engaging with our continental brothers and sisters. And if we're honest, you know, when we're talking about uniting and joining the two sticks as one, that's not something in which does.
All right, Sister Shonda. Okay, well, shalom, family. Sister Sonda.
I was so honored to be able to have. Same thing.
Yeah, you're going in and out, Sister Shonda.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. All praises to the Most High. I'm telling you, I'm having a lot of difficulties tonight, but I was so honored to have T3 and me on last week. But we wanted to address those of us who are still in the diaspora and connecting with those on the continent. So with that in mind, Brother Karis, I'd love to get your take on the importance of what you're seeing here with the UN's Day of Remembrance for the victims of the transatlantic slave trade.
You know, it's a powerful thing to see the imagery of our ancestors making that voyage and understanding the death that came about. And now we have an opportunity to work in life. You know, as a people, we've been exposed to a death culture that was placed upon us. This is not our culture. This is not how we act. This is not how we walk. This is not how we move. Everything that we have been ingrained and have had ingrained on us is counter to what you have on the continent. When we understand the amount of programming that we have been exposed to, and when you are encountering your brother and sister on the continent, on the ground, it's night and day. Matter of fact, it's so night and day that they can't even understand what we've been enduring. When we've told them about this, hey, this is what happens, this is what goes on, this is how we live, they looked at us like we're lying. And I said this, I said, look, the West did a great job of hiding what we have gone through. See, isn't it amazing what's happened over the last couple of years in our awakening that we didn't even understand that the ones that hated us literally decided to tell our story to the rest of the world without our consent, without our permission, and something that has been way, way over exaggerated to the point of where they have lied about our conditions here in the United States. And not just the United States, all around the world, everywhere that we had been taken. See, our job and our mission here at Quest to Unite Africa is that we started with critical infrastructure and economic development. The mission was we wanted to make sure that we can try to get equipment on over to try to do roads and things of that nature. But to be quite honest, there was a little bit more to that. As we were on the ground, as we could see what was going on, what we didn't truly understand were the conditions on the ground that needed to be managed first. We had a lot of great ideas, but then we started to realize they don't even really use any type of printers or scanners. So we were putting all of that cart before the horse on that one.
Wow.
So yeah, so if you all hear my voice, my name is Karis Copeland. I am the president and executive director at Quest to Unite Africa. um, my go by name is Covenant Awakenings, and I'd like to introduce you all to the board of Quest to Unite Africa, starting with our treasurer, Princess Reeves, and then Michael Raya, our secretary, and then the rest of the board and the attorney.
And I'm so glad that all of you are here tonight. You know, every single one of you are instrumental in making Quest to Unite Africa a reality. And for those of you who are not aware of the story behind Quest to Unite Africa, this organization was birthed by the Most High just probably a quarter ago, about 3 or 4 months ago, right, Brother Karras?
Yeah, we've have been working this for now 11 months. And
11
so,
months.
yes, almost a year. Will be a year in April. And it's been
Wow.
amazing to see how the Most High has moved.
And I didn't even realize that it had been a full 11 months, because I know that recently you all just received your 501c3 status and are respected as a nonprofit entity or organization within the United States to represent the continent. And I'm just so thrilled about how Yah is opening up doors for you immediately. But I can tell you personally, from having relationships with each of you, that the heart and the heart and the character really of each of you is reflective of Yah Almighty and what his work is to do in regathering his people. And so I'm so glad that each and every one of you, Sister Shar, Brother Big Red, Sister Princess, Sister Patea, Brother Michael, and Brother Walt, have joined in with Brother Karras to make this a reality. So
You went out against Sister Shonda.
to talk about tonight is why it is that you all felt the need. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you keep going in and out. We lost you for about 10 seconds.
Okay, y'all, we're gonna have to pray tonight because I'm telling you, it's been a lot tonight with this technology. But I'd like to ask the question of why do you all feel the need to start Quest to Unite Africa? What was the resounding message in each of your hearts about the importance of this organization?
Brother Mike, I'll let you go ahead and answer that one.
Well, I think truthfully, I don't know why Karis gonna throw it off on me, but Karis, when we first started it, we was thinking about the infrastructure and everything, and then Karis started adding more of the business aspect to it and tweaking it a whole lot more till we really started to see, hey, this is something a little bit more than what we expected. And we went with it though. We most definitely went with it. And the more we kept on sitting down and talking about different things, the more a lot of stuff fell into place. And then we started having other brothers and sisters coming in and volunteering. And so I think what really got us running is when me and Karis went to Tanzania.
Yes, please tell us about that experience.
Oh, Sister Ashanda. It was really myself, Karis, and Brother Quinn, Sister Shar's son. And at that time, that's when I had met Sebastian, one of the political politicians. And so he talked with the group, and he was saying, he gave the encouragement that we should work together and things. This was on a Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
That was on a Zoom, and the brothers and sisters felt good about it to hear a brother that's from Tanzania encouraging the brothers and sisters, let's work together, let's get this done. And we did it. We did that. And while we was there, we took a tent. Well, we thought it was a 4-hour trip. We thought it was a 4-hour trip. So me and Karis and Quentin, we came out with suits on because we think we about to go to the what do they call it? The Parliament, Karis?
Yeah, the legislative building. So it was literally their House of Representatives for the most part. And yeah, we left Dar es Salaam, didn't realize it was going to be a 9, almost 10-hour trip.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that was one of the most scariest drives I've ever had. I said, Father, why'd you bring me out here to just have me perish? No, Father, no.
And Karis was sitting in the front seat.
Oh man. Was he telling a lot of jokes? He was in there joking like crazy, I know.
No, he was too scared to be telling jokes.
Yeah, your mouth really doesn't work very well when you think you're gonna get hit by oncoming traffic. I'm just saying, you just.
Well, I'm so glad that you're safe. We are all glad that you're safe. So we're going to go ahead and get into the thicket of tonight's conversation because we know that you have been very busy with the work that you have been doing, tremendously busy. And we're just grateful for all that you are doing. And we're going to be talking about some of the things that you do tonight. But what we would like to do right now is we're going to address some of the issues that those of us in the diaspora, though we are eager to know more about our land, know more about our continental brothers and sisters, there's been some conflicts. There's been some, things that we've wrestled with, especially in this awakening over the last couple of years. And so what we want to do is take some time to really hash out and discuss some of those things, some of those problems that we have seen our brothers and sisters who have have repatriated to the continent some of the challenges that they have faced. So what I want to do at this time is share a video and get your perspective on
Yeah, you going out again, Sister Shonda. Mm.
Yeah.
All
You
right,
know
so
what?
okay, there we go. She's coming back up.
All right. Until then, I know Sister Ashanda asked me how was the trip and things, and so while we was driving,
You seen that you're not seen as African. You seen
can you hear me?
Yeah, the video's buffering.
The video was buffering. Okay, I'm going to put it back on for everyone. And everybody's going to have to be patient tonight. We're going to try the best that we can because there have been serious internet issues in the VI. And I know you guys know that there have been a lot of issues going on in the States, but we have been having the same challenges here. So let me share this video.
You are touching point on a good subject, because as African Americans, we all look at Africa as the motherland, right? It's the motherland. That's where we came from. Well, a good portion of the country believe that. Some Americans, African Americans, believe that we're from America, but that's another conversation. But in reference to how I felt, and then again to the viewers, this is my experience. I'm speaking from my experience and my thoughts. Everybody is different, but I'm only going to give you my perspective and my experience on being American and then moving to Africa. And you're right. I was the same way. I romanticized like one day, wow, I want to go to Africa and reconnect with my people, and yeah, that's where we come from. But then once you get there, you're seeing that you're not seen as African. You're seen as an American. You like seen as a Black American. You just American is happen to be Black in most situations. And I felt that way when I initially went to Ghana. And I was like, oh, okay. They'll never view me as brother, because a good percentage of Africans, they're not taught our history. They're not taught about the slave trade to an extent. So they don't understand why we romanticize coming to Africa. Because when we come and we visit, they be like, why you all are here? We want to move to America. Why you all coming here? So I think a lot of African Americans, when you come to Wanda or come to Wanda, Africa, or wherever, you have to adjust your emotions, because Africans don't view us as brothers and sisters. I'm just gonna keep it a buck. They view 90% of them view us as foreigners. So, and I think when we get there and we have that wake up call, it put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, because they come and they thinking that they're returning to something that doesn't exist anymore. I think a lot of us are still yearning that connection, and it doesn't exist anymore.
This is his own experience.
I think that was a very powerful statement that brother made. And I think that, as somebody who has not actually been on the continent, that is one of the concerns that we have is, will we be accepted? Will we be really and truly accepted by our continental African Israelite brothers and sisters? Or are we looked at as foreigners? Are we looked at as just, Black Americans, just having maybe resources to provide to the continent, but we don't actually get the opportunity to engage with the culture the way in which we would like to, as we're trying to relearn and unlearn some of those colonialist and Hellenistic thought points that have been lodged into our minds. I'd like to hear from Sister Shar, especially from your point of view as somebody who is from the South. I'd like to hear from your point of view about what you think when you listen to this brother speak.
I hear the, kind of like the that dream that's been like kind of like turned into a nightmare. Like, I think many of us, myself included, have romanticized getting away from this place. And we do have a lot of cultural barriers we're going to have to continue to navigate. So from my perspective, it's like this. So Miami, where I'm from, is like Caribbean North, right? Growing up, all my friends were from somewhere else. They were from Haiti, from Jamaica, from Cuba, from Mexico. And because of that cultural experience, and Atlanta is very similar as well, where we are now, but when you live in a situation where everybody come from somewhere else, everyone wants to have kind of like their distinct kind of, oh, this is how we do it, and this is where we are, and this is what makes us better. Jamaicans, let's keep it real. Jamaicans are like the top of the totem pole in their own eyes and respect to everybody else in the Caribbean. No one's better than Jamaicans, and I get on Jamaicans hard because Jamaica is a part of my heritage, my family heritage. My father is from Jamaica.
Right. That's what you said. What you said was legit now, see, because Jamaicans are like they are the representation of everything that is Caribbean,
Yeah.
But I ain't gonna lie, I love Jamaicans. I love Jamaicans because they just got that spice about them. You can't put them down. You can't put a Jamaican down, right? So I love that.
Jamaica is the warrior class of the Caribbean, right?
That's it.
But even within Caribbean culture, there's division.
True. Very true.
Within diaspora to Caribbean, there is division. I've heard Jamaican folks say African Americans think they pain worse than everybody else pain, and it's getting in the way of us having a conversation.
True.
And so for me, when it comes to cultural competency, which is why shout out to the cultural engagement team of Quest Unite Africa. We have a team of volunteers who are doing an amazing job exploring the culture of the continent, sharing the culture of the continent. And you know what? We are now in a position to tell our story to our brothers and sisters on the continent, because what I'm finding is that to our brothers and sisters on the continent, I'm seeing a lot of commentary about when they see us, they see money bags. They think we got the pot at the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Like, they don't realize we running from a burning house.
Okay.
They right. So we try to go over there and say, hey, look, we're in this thing together.
They don't know how we have to try to make $1 out of 15 cents. Okay.
Man, they don't know. All they know is what the drug dealers you see in the movies, or like our big houses and all this other kind of stuff, the American dream side of being Black in America. But they don't see our struggle, because their struggle is not, it don't look the same as ours. And a part of what we're experiencing, what we're learning, what we're going to be sharing with our with the community is how we're the same, but the way that they played the game on all of us is different. And so we're all looking at ourselves like, whoa, it's me, I got it worse. Like, no. They got all of us.
I think that's so powerful what you said. They got all of us, but the way they got us was different. It wasn't exactly the same. And it almost reminds me, and Brother Big Red, you can step in at this point if you'd like to, but it reminds me a bit of the Willie Lynch syndrome. right? So it's just a dividing of the diasporans from the dividing of the continental Israelite Africans that are there. What are your thoughts about that, Big Red?
There's a theory that on the internet, most of the posts that you see are not real. It's from some kind of bot farm or it's from some kind of hacking. And I believe it because here recently I've been seeing so much stuff that's trying to like promote a diaspora and African, those that are still on the continent, like they're trying to, it's put a wedge in there. It's trying to bring up a lot of nonsense and just you know, a lot of animosity that's coming out of nowhere. A lot of the so-called black talking heads are going real hard on this whole I forget the derogatory name that they say they give them or whatever, and they, you know, they be trying to like divide a wedge in between the two of us instead of having us come together. And it's on both sides. I see it from the other side, I see some from the African side. You know, they'll say crazy stuff. So we just got to remember that who is the one who benefits the most by us not coming together. A lot of these things, you know, to see, it's good to understand and know that that's how it is. And it takes both sides understanding that, hey, we got to put my preconceived notions in the ground. I can't come over there thinking all of them are like that, just like they can't, you know, look at me and think, oh, I'm just like every other dude. Just give that person the benefit of the doubt and move knowing that a lot of these things that we are told about each other has been lies from third party entities that are benefiting greatly from our not coming together.
Right, right. And I 100% agree. But Brother Walt, let me ask you, how is it that we change our mindset when we're going to engage with our continental African brothers and sisters? How do we get to a position where we start to have the grace, right? The grace that we need to have in order to exist on the land and integrate into the land, knowing that we've been in the Americas. We've seen all the games. We know all the manipulative tactics. How do we then have a mental shift to give our brothers and sisters grace so that they can see us as the same as them?
Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to, you know, meet them and just sit down and have a conversation. And in that, with that conversation, we can establish a relationship so we can share each of our own personal history about, you know, how they got us. And then in that, after building that relationship, then maybe we can be able to come together and fight against the real enemy.
A conversation. So it just starts with a simple conversation. Go ahead,
That's
Brother
it.
Mike.
Oh no, sister. You know, but truthfully, sister, when me and Caddis was there, we didn't. I can't say that we experienced that. How they just look at. Don't get me wrong. They do look at you as a money bag. But guess what? Who's holding that scepter? Judah is. So yes, they're going to look at us like that, and they also know. And this is one thing they always say: African Americans do not play with Gentiles.
Mm-hmm.
They know this.
Mm-hmm.
And so when me and Karis was there, we seen so many people that look like our relatives. It wasn't even funny.
Mm-hmm.
It was not funny. I mean, we had conversation with brothers and sisters, and they was explaining how African Americans, when they come there to visit, guess who their biggest tippers are? African Americans.
You know it, because I mean
African Americans.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
so,
I think that even here in the diaspora, as the Most High has woken us up, we talk about that. We talk about how we want to bless our brothers and sisters more now that we know, be more intentional about giving each other grace. So that's what makes it hard, you know, when there's the division. And shout out to Teo Ministries, Brother Yakoba, Brother Teyu. He says here, the division is real. They don't see us as their brothers because they don't know our history. Not until TMH heals us will we truly come together. Many love the Gentiles. And now this is something like we have to be honest about, right? Because I was watching a video about, you know, the whole imagery aspect of white Jesus in the churches, everywhere you go. when you see the representation of the Godhead, if you will, you see him as white, and you see yourself with a different complexion, how do you not, when that's in your brain so much, how do you not perceive whiteness as greatness and the dark melanated man as weakness? And then when you see your diasporan brothers and sisters come, think, okay, there goes more problems, because this is what I'm seeing that our brothers and sisters on the continent are feeling when they're there. Now, I understand all the points that you guys are making, and I think they're great. But I'm going to tell you, as somebody who lives in the Caribbean, there's a difference between coming to the islands on a vacation and a difference between coming here to live. So for those of you who keep reaching out to me about living here, there's a difference, okay? There is a huge difference, because it's a tourist mentality when we're dealing with those who are coming in. We're going to see money, but when you come here to live, then you're hustling with everybody else, and there is conflict, as Sister Shar has said. So, Sister Princess, and then I'm gonna get Sister Patea's take on this. What do you think about the reality of those who are actually living there? Not, I visited back and forth a couple of times, but I'm living here and I'm feeling the discrimination. What do you think about their reality?
I mean, their reality is really the opposite of our reality. I mean, we are literally in the same predicament, but we have other, opportunities here that makes it seem like we're better off than what they might feel might not be an opportunity at all. So I think that it's just, the perspective, but um, they really, I mean, when you sit and you kind of just sit there and you can feel, the energy there, and just understand that we're there just to, you know, bond or have a relationship. It's just different. But they, in the back of their minds are like, well, you're leaving, and it is a vacation mindset. And we had the opportunity to stay there for 30 days and just living in and day out and walking around, and they were just happy to see us. They tell us that they want us there because they know, how powerful that would be, for us to build together. But you know, it's just, how do we get there?
And I love what you said, because I think that some of them there really sincerely want to see the change. Like
Yeah.
you get to
Yeah.
a point, right? Like where you're tired. You're tired of seeing things never change when for such a long time colonialist viewpoints have ruled the continent. I mean, down to their laws, down to how they travel. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well tonight. But there are some, I believe, that are open to seeing the shift of the diasporan Israelites coming back home and re-engaging. And I love what Brother Walt said about having that conversation. But Sister Patea, let me get your take. When you think about, especially with a former military background, when you think about the continental Israelite brothers and sisters, and then there's also the Hamitic brothers and sisters that are there, and how they're engaging with us as those who are in the diaspora, who are coming, trying to get that sense of identity and acceptance from the family there.
That just comes back to what everybody else was saying. Is needs to be a discussion and perspective brought, because one of the things that the board here we always talk about is that one reason they don't want the two sticks to come together is literally information and knowledge. When we had one of our recent meetings, for example, we were able to show one of our dignitary partners that it was very much cheaper to start a business in the U.S. than it was to do in Tanzania, and said like all the hurdles that are put in place on the continent to keep African Americans away from the African natives. And he was just blown away, saying, I didn't even know that it was even possible. And same thing with us learning about their history, which answering one of people's questions in the chat, our cultural engagement, one of the reasons why we developed that department was to help bring that perspective of each country that we are trying to involve ourselves in, such as Tanzania, Rwanda, Kenya, and all the rest of the countries, is to know their history. Because just as they don't know the African diaspora history, we don't know theirs. And that's a great way to start this conversation and to bring that perspective and discussion to the table. And to find that, as Sister Char was saying, it was just two different types of slavery we went through. We all have been brainwashed by the colonial powers to be against each other, because they know if we come together with this information and find out who is the true enemy, they know that they can't stop us once we come back together.
Powerful, powerful. And I love what you said about the information. We bring all of our experiences, our expertise, and the sense of modernity, right, of the Western culture and what we have developed. Really, we have developed. It's been robbed, it's been stolen, but our creativity, as Brother Michael was saying, being that we are the tribe of Judah, we hold the scepter. That's what we want to bring to the table. And that's what the enemy does not want. But we have to, at the same time, we have to address the reality of the cultural differences. Okay, Sister Matea, True Seeker, just pointed out about the history. Teo just pointed out about the truth, about the history, the not understanding each other's history. But the culture is also an issue. So we look back at the transatlantic slave trade, and we've done so much historical work of just understanding what happened throughout the routes. But let's take it a little bit closer to home, and let's look at the reality that men, women, and children were taken through the transatlantic slave trade through Ghana, and through the Portuguese, was it the Spanish and the Portuguese countries that brought them to Sao Tome in West Africa. And there was also the Arab slave trade, but it was men, women, and children that were carted off like chattel. And in the chattel slavery, men, women, and children were traumatized. Men, women, and children. So we have a separate identity and understanding culturally of what it means to suffer. And especially from the perspective of a woman, we know that we've had to stand by our Israelite brothers at the same level in terms of the work, in terms of beating our backs on the fields, in terms of just all of the atrocities that have happened. We've had to stand. But yet, when it comes to the culture in many African countries, especially when it comes to gender, there's a huge issue that separates us from them. I want to look at the tragedy that happened in Gambia. So this is the tragedy in the Gambia, the mysterious death of British national Shekinah Shinidu. All right. This sister right here was a powerful sister. We're going to look a little bit into her life. She was a 60-year-old British woman. She found herself the subject of the headlines, but for no reason one might hope. Her death in the Gambia, a place far from home, unravels a story that tugs at the heartstrings of communities across borders, urging us to look beyond the surface and question the safety and security far from home. So Shinadu was last in contact with her family on February 13, 2024, around 10:30 p.m. Concerns grew when she failed to respond to calls and messages, leading to a report filed at Tijuring Police Station on February 15th. The following day, a discovery that would mark the beginning of a harrowing investigation was made. Shinadu's body was found inside a well located within an uncompleted compound in Kukujang, Miriama. This discovery not only sent shockwaves through the community, but also posed urgent questions about the circumstances leading to her untimely death. Now, this sister was a trailblazer. And what I want to do for those of you who are not familiar with her, because she's one of 6 women who has recently, within the last 2 years, has unfortunately come to her demise in the Gambia. And what I want to do is I want to share with you a video so that you can see just who this sister was and how powerful she was, so we can have this discussion.
Gambia. I'm representing the African Diaspora Returnees Association, and we are a group of people who have returned to live in Gambia because we see ourselves as Africans. So I'm representing that group.
Why did you make the decision, knowing that Africa has a history of political instability, history of backwardness in terms of economy, corruption, and all that? You left the life that you lived in, probably in the Caribbean or in the UK or somewhere in America, to come and live in the Gambia.
Wow, you made some sweeping statements there. Political instability, poor economy. That's not the Africa that I see. That's the Africa that the BBC and the CNN tells us about. Africa's our home as Black people, and we have to make it what it is. If you think the West was paved with gold, it wasn't. I was born in the UK, but I was always made to know I was never accepted there as a Black person. So you see the difference. Even though I was born there and I should be able to say, yes, it was wonderful there, but it wasn't. The discrimination is still there. My parents faced it in the 60s. I faced it, as I was growing up. My children are facing it. It's not changing for us. So it's imperative that we come home and we build Africa so that we don't make the statements that you made about the political instability, the poorness. Africa is a rich continent, and everybody else can see that except us. This is why other people are coming here, but we're not coming here. So we need to come here and we need to enjoy the fruits of Africa.
How do you adapt to a country that struggles a lot economically, and even when it comes to basic necessities like food, water, electricity, the on and offs of electricity? You've been in the UK all your life and you've not experienced such kind of things. How are you going to adapt in the Gambia?
Because it's a mindset. If you're coming home to Africa, you have to come home with a different mindset. The UK is the UK, Africa is Africa. And if you want to live here and be part and parcel of the fabric of Africa, you have to adapt. But in that adaptation, you have to be part of the change as well. So, yes, we may not have stable electricity all the time. We may not have, maybe all the things that we thought we needed in the West. But we have to think to ourselves, did we need all the materialism that the West has to offer? Have we been spoilt by the West? Is it really about living the life we should be living as Africans? We are different and we should be living a different life. So it's about adapting, but it's about changing the mindset first.
You look like one of us. Do you feel at home when you came to Gambia?
Absolutely. I've been coming here for 14 years, living here permanently for 2 years. This is the happiest I've been in my life. Every morning I wake up, I see the sun, first of all, and then I see people that look like me. That's enough for me. That's enough for me.
Now, before I continue, because there's some more to the story that I want to talk about, but when you hear about tragedies like what has happened to our sisters in the Gambia, especially those of us who, are excited about the idea of us coming together and unifying. And from what I could tell, the sister was, very not only courageous, very intelligent, very forward thinking, a pioneer. And yet she lost her life in the Gambia. What are your thoughts about that? And you know what? Feel free. Yeah, Sister Sharp, you'd like to.
Psychological warfare. You want to start putting a couple of dollars in some hungry man's hand who's willing to go and do your dirt to sow that seed of frustration and despair and turn us away from where we have pointed our face and said, which way is Zion? You want to discourage us. I believe that this is warfare.
Absolutely. I agree that it is warfare.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I believe the same thing what Sister Shar says. They are trying to once again feed us the negative parts of Africa, even though Africa is a very beautiful place and it is a very peaceful place. And they did spoil us here and taught us to be they conditioned us to have the things that we have, our Starbucks coffee, our air conditioner, our stable electricity. But those things aren't necessity. You know, one of the things that we learned, me and my wife learned over there while we was over there, is the biggest thing that's important to them is their family. You know, here in America, you know, we believe, you know, we are of the opinion that we got to work and get that money. Over there, they're going to work, make sure they have enough of what they need, and they're going to spend time with their family. You know, so they did do a number on us.
You know, I think that anytime you speak, any Black person, African American, speak about returning home when they know for a fact that's the last thing they want. They're the people that's controlling this world. They want Africa to stay in this condition. They want it to stay poor. They're getting so arrogant to their saying we need to go recolonize Africa. This is what some of these people are saying. And so now you have this sister, just like what Sister Shar said, because that was the first thing that came to my mind. They paid somebody. It would appear that you would think, all right, you go pay somebody to get rid of this sister. And 9 times out of 10, what do you think the world is going to think? Some Black person in Africa did it. That's like a programming off the top. And so what they are trying to do, and just like what Red said, this stuff is popping up now. I mean, they done killed a lot of our brothers over the however many years in Africa as well as in the United States. Majority of your brothers who took the lead and for speaking up for equal rights in Africa, the majority of your killing took place in the United States and Africa. And anybody that spoke against the West, majority of those brothers, majority of men that was killed were African descent. I'm so sorry, delete it.
I will say that I do agree that it is psychological warfare and stuff. But what we have to also do is look and know that our enemy knows us. And the part of psychological warfare is understanding your enemy. And then, you know, we got folks going over there that we be trying to bring our Americanness with us. We've taken on that mindset from the palm colored people that, you know, we think we can go places and move a certain way. And it's the same thing even with folks from the UK. They think you can go someplace and you can move a certain way, and that's just not it. A lot of women that are going over there are facing problems because they're not going with any kind of real male covering. You can't go by yourself. These dudes, the same thing. You go over there, you can't go by yourself. If she would have had a cadre of men around her that were watching her back, that person that they hired would have had a hard time getting up in there. I too believe that it was a whole setup, absolutely. But we make it easy for them when we move in the wrong mindset. And that's a part of our problem is we think we could bring up, you know, it's just like what Uncle Walt said, oh, you know, we have our air conditioning. You go over there, the refrigerators ain't as big as they are over here. You may not have an oven with all the fixings and stuff like that. So in your mind, you've already getting negative stuff because you're trying to bring that Americanness with you. And that's not the case. We can't move like that. And you know, in line with the subject, a lot of our sisters, unfortunately, move with this American mindset. I mean, look at Dubai. You know, Dubai locking sisters up. You know, I really don't hear nobody talk about that. They, you know, Africa. Look, Dubai just locked up like another sister for just yelling at a dude. She raised her voice at that man, and they locked her tail up. Like, you know, you can't bring this crazy American mindset when you go to different places. Just like me as a dude, I can go. You know, if I go there, and you can be there with your whole wife, but PDA is not a thing. You know what I'm saying? You have to move with the culture of where you go. You can't bring this American, you know, boss girl mindset into a place that is traditional with Muslim values. Like, come on now. You can't do that. Yeah. You can't move like that. We have to be smart because we're making it easy for our enemy to take advantage of our pride to take us out.
And that's an excellent point that you brought up. And I'm actually glad you did, Brother Walt. I'm going to give you a chance to say what you want to say in just 1 minute, because I wanted to shift when I talk about the gender perspective. I wanted to shift on this video here that was done by Go Black. And I'm going to be honest with you, it kind of rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. So I'm going to share it with you and then get your perspective on this concerning the woman who we just saw who passed away. Take a listen.
I would not tell a sister to take a step back, remove yourself, and wait for them to see what is going on, because you're a target. But you can't tell people anything these days. And I'm just going to say it. This strong Black woman attitude has got to stop. It's got to stop. This whole mindset of thinking that you can just run around and skedaddle around the world and think you can do and act or say or just be without any threat against you is a poor judgment on oneself. Now, forgive me, because I have a heart and a care for my sisters, that I might sound like a little bit unsensitive for people's desires to go travel the world by themselves. Shout out to the women who have seen the importance, who understands the difference in the makeup of a male and a female. Shout out to my sisters who are here with their husbands in Africa, who I have heard many a stories. Some weren't on board with their husbands' desires to come to the motherland, or having a dream to come and start afresh, or remove him and his family out of a situation that he saw that was not good for them. But the sisters decided they were going to stand by their man, and they were going to hold down their position in the network of a family and be there. Peace and blessings to you sisters out there.
Okay, so the reason why I said it rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. Now, I am a very, very thankful woman to have a strong Black husband, have 6 strong sons, and I definitely agree with you when it comes to utilizing the strength of our Israelite men for protection. Don't get me wrong, because, hey, y'all are the stronger vessels. We are the weaker vessels, and I 100% understand where you're coming from. My thoughts, though, when I saw this video and what he said, this was in regards to the sister who just passed away. And when he spoke about sassy Black woman attitude from the West, I was a little bit irritated by that language, because from what I could tell, this woman, she presented herself as someone who was very feminine, who was someone who was a courageous woman, yes, but she did not have a sassy Black woman attitude. And so what bothers me as a woman is when I see that the victim is being shamed. It's victim shaming, instead of looking at this from the perspective of those who are on the continent, the continental brothers who do not have any regard for women. And that is the difference for me, what I see for those of us who came out of the transatlantic slave trade. We had to fight together. And so I say, why are we not holding our continental brothers with any kind of responsibility in how they are treating our sisters on the continent? In my perspective, I feel like that should be addressed at some point in the conversation. Any thoughts?
Yeah.
Let me tell. Let me tell this one story. Let me tell this one story today. Today, there was a meeting that was had, and in the meeting, I had a thought about something. And from my point of view, I was like, "Yo, if I ask this question, this will help foster things towards this way." So I asked that question and stuff, and then later on in the conversation, Brother Cares, this is what I love about Q2UA. We hold each other accountable. Brother Cares is like, "Oh man, you shouldn't ask that. That kind of made that person feel this type of way." Now, from my point of view, I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I would want something, like that. I would look at it like this. I would look at it this way, like that. And I thought about it for a while. And then after thinking about it, I realized I'm like, I'm looking at something and putting my thought process onto somebody else instead of trying to see it from their point of view and adjusting my expectations to go right there. So then that's when I came and then I apologized and I was like, yo, I realized my wrong. And I realized now I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I felt some type of way when he first had told me that, because it don't feel good when you are faced with the reality that, dang, my way of thinking was wrong. But you have to come to that conclusion that, man, sometimes I have to come out of how I feel about a thing and look at it for what it is. Nobody is co-signing anything of what these dudes are doing, and nobody's saying that anything is wrong. However, if I willingly jump into a pool of sharks with chum around my neck and blood coming out of my wrist, is it really the shark's fault that I got ate up? That's the problem that's here. Is we got to understand that these dudes have a different set of values. Again, I'm not condoning nothing that they're doing, but we can't go over there expecting them to see things the way we see it. And for women, you can't move over there thinking that they're going to act the way we would act over here. They were raised a whole different kind of way. Again, that woman got locked up for yelling at a man. They don't suffer that over there. Women over here hit men. They don't play that over there.
Yeah.
Red, you also have to admit in that conversation, when I gave you the breakdown of the ashy feet and the ashy knees, you were like,
you were right. It made sense because I humbled myself. I was able to see a bigger perspective. And I think that's the biggest issue that a lot of our women are going to have when it comes to going into countries like Africa. It's not going to move like how America moves. Just like how the men have to get their mindset changed, because it ain't going to move how it moves over here. You go over there and get a girl pregnant and see if the whole family don't come looking for you. You can forget about it. You don't wish you had to pay your child support. They coming for you for that dowry and then some. Like, you can't move the same way.
So can I?
But let me ask you something.
Let me say something.
Okay, then
go
I
ahead.
want to challenge him in something that he said, but go ahead.
Okay. Now, one thing that this is, from my personal opinion, that when we go to another country, like Red says, it is a whole different culture, and we can't bring our cultures to them and tell them, say, well, this is how you need to act. If you go to somebody's house, you need to learn the rules of their house and act accordingly. Like I wouldn't go to Brooke Harris' house and put my feet on his sofa if he don't do that. And so as we move about, as we all decide to move back to Africa, we have to do some studying of the culture so that we understand what we are getting ourselves into. We can't go over there and move we can't bring, and we should not even want to bring America to the motherland. We should
Let
want
me
to
pose
go
this
there.
to you, Walt. Let me pose this to you, Walt. Now, imagine, we just seen what this sister gave that speech. What's the difference between what she said, and a man saying the exact same thing that she's saying? What will be this? What will be the effects? Because I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything.
We're in war.
I'm sorry.
We're in war, family.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at the observations. I'm working with female attorneys over there. I'm talking to female business owners, and the women there are they move with a timidity that is extremely foreign to me. When we're interfacing with brothers on the continent, I'm usually trying to tone me down because I know me is a lot different than the timidity.
Show enough.
So we got to read the room where we go. And the sister in Rhonda said to me, she said, we business women, we don't know how to promote our businesses. I was so confused. But then when I think about it in the context of this conversation, it's because women are not celebrated for speaking up, speaking their mind, asserting themselves. This is a very American thing that we come with. And so we as women, we have to understand how that can be perceived as threatening. I mean, heck, even here amongst our brothers here, we talk out the side of our neck. You know, we have a lot to learn. I'm not saying that we got to become timid, but I do believe we have to learn a wisdom of how to move like a lioness under the covering of our lions, our male lions. And
And I'm not knocking that.
We gotta learn how to do that.
Yeah, I 100% agree with y'all. But see, what I want to keep in mind with a broader perspective, when we're talking about culture, we are the descendants of the victims of the transatlantic slave trade. We are the ones who came into the Western culture with the mindset that we were no more than chattel. We were animals. And had we not decided to push back against that notion, will we still be on those plantations? I mean, we have fought for hundreds of years for equality and representation in the lands of our captivity. Not Black men, but Black men and Black women. And the issue that I have is that now we're saying, well, we don't want to go over to the continent and expect that who we are as a people should be respected. We have to then go in and we have to acclimate and adjust completely, which is another form of oppression to the standards or the substandards of how they believe that women should be treated there. And I have to make that very clear, because when I see what Sister Shar is saying about the timidity of the women, that is a cultural thing that has been set inside of them that is 100% foreign to us, because we have to fight for everything that we have, everything that we have. And what I need to see as an Israelite woman is that my Israelite brothers are going to understand and say, you are not going to get away with mistreating my sister, my wife, my mother, my auntie, because this is your culture. We're going to have to learn how to work together. We're going to have to learn to respect each other. That's what I need to see, because that's what my forefathers did. My forefathers stood arm and shoulder with my foremothers. You see, here in the Virgin Islands, we had just as bad slavery. We have an island named Totola. It's Totola. It's the British Virgin Islands. And you can see it from St. John. It's a stretch of ocean. And it was our Israelite brothers and sisters that said, I'd rather wrestle with the sharks in the ocean than to be on this plantation. And they would swim from St. John to Totola for freedom together. Some of them made it and some of them didn't. That's where my grandmother comes from. Her bones came from Totola because one of her kinsmen said, I am going to fight for my freedom. And so what I'm saying is that we, as descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, we have to understand that we have been standing in solidarity together forever. And we can't switch up now because it doesn't affect you as a man, but it affects me as a woman. Now, I know I got to tone it down. I'm actually pretty quiet generally when you meet me in person. But nevertheless, I don't want to see my sisters like that sister there getting brutalized, beaten down, and killed because she's a woman. That is unacceptable in my book. And feel free, to add some comments.
I mean, what I was looking at, sister, they said that she was there for 2 years. I was thinking that this sister was there just, on vacation or something. And that's the assumption that I had, until you showed the other video. And I'm like, wait a minute, she was living there. So she'd been there for a moment. I mean, was it 2 years?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah. She was
and so, I mean, evidently, I don't think that she just all of a sudden one day just happened to just, let's just say, grow a backbone and just start speaking. But I didn't see anything that what she was saying that how, we as African descent should come home and that Africa is not poor. The country is not poor and things of that nature. How we as descendants of Africa should come home to do business. What was wrong with that?
What about the call out though that I'm hearing from Sister Ashanda saying, why is our brother not coming to our defense? Because
the thing is,
Well, but I just wanted to say that because here at Question Night Africa, what we experience as the women here in this organization is that y'all come through for us. Y'all be throwing bows for us. Like, you know, when we run into a frustration, it's one of the brothers that's stepping up for us. And
That's
so
right.
what I'm hearing is that this should be happening as an international outcry on behalf of us, not giving us a pass on when we are off the chain, because we could be a lot with our mouth. We can.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
I mean,
See,
I think that's the
the
reason
whole
why I
thing
said.
about coming to the defense is the person. If I'm the bodyguard for somebody, if you want me to defend you, that means you have to submit to what I say. If the bodyguard tells the movie star that they're with, hey, I need you to duck down here and move here, what you think they're gonna do? They're gonna duck down and move because they know that dude is there to save their life. So if you want the men to come and save you, you need to listen when the men are talking. I'm talking about the men with sense, not the little boys. The men. When the men speak, most women don't want to listen, and they want to hear things through the Babylon mindset. See, what we got to understand is Babylon has done a number on all of us. And what we got to really understand is a lot of what we think is our history has been given to us. I can't name one civil rights leader who wasn't compromised. How in the world W.E.B. Du Bois gonna create the NAACP and then turn around and let white people lead and run it, and you go right for the newspaper? You got Booker T in Washington playing Mr. Sly Cooper down in Georgia. Like the whole thing with integration was the worst thing that happened to us. We was the most married. We had the most successful families. We had successful communities all before integration. But the so-called people that we celebrate fought for this integration that has now have us in the state that we in, where the government came in and replaced the black man for a social security check. So we have to look at our history and realize this is a history that was given to us. They always have been showing us suffering on TV. It's the programming. What you see every year, Roots, suffering, getting whooped by. What you see, the color purple made by a black woman who was married to a Revelation 2:9 person that promotes black men in a very negative way. All my life I had to fight. This is the programming that has been put into us. This is why we have to get ourselves out of Babylon mentally. It's more than just giving up a few little things here and there. It's a deep psychological tear, and this is what we be promoting at Q2UA. We have therapy sessions in some of our meetings. Like, we all volunteers be coming together just having just mass therapy, because that's what it's going to take. Because we got to realize that a lot of the things that we feel have been handed to us by a slave master that want us to feel that so they can exploit it.
And you know, this is the reason why I call him Brother Reverend Red. That's my brother. Red be going in.
Well, for here, there's 2 points here, and the first one, and there's no proof of this, but I do agree with some people in the chat. I do believe that a part of this is a setup to keep the African diaspora, the African natives from coming back together. That they know that based off prophecy that it's going to happen. The Most High's word does not return void, but they're doing everything they can to keep that from happening. And then also the second point is that we, going with what Red was saying, we have to get out of this Babylonian mindset of moving alone. If you look at any group, they do not move alone. They move as a community. They move as a group. Because you're strong. What is it? One stick can be snapped, but if you put 2 or 3 or more sticks together, you can't break them as easily. That's the trick right there. When you're moving by yourself, you leave yourself vulnerable. If you move as a group, what happens when you go missing in a family unit? They're going to be like, wait a second, where's so-and-so? They've been gone for longer than they usually are. And that's one of the issues that we are facing here. And that's one of the things that Q2UA is trying to resolve, of making it easier for African diasporans to move as a group over there and connect with our brothers and sisters on the continent. Because when you move there by yourself, you have no lifeline. You have no safety net. You don't have that covering, because yes, there are some women that either they're widows or they're single, sometimes not by choice. And back in the day, we had that community before integration. We had that covering that even if you didn't have your husband or your father through certain situations, you still had a community member that ended up being like a father figure for you. You still have that covering. And that's one of the issues that we're facing right now is we're moving there as an individual instead of moving there as a nation.
I love that. Moving as a nation. And I think Big Red has raised some amazing points. Sister Shar has raised some amazing points, Brother Michael, as well as myself. And I love what Sister Patea said, to just wrap that up, that we have to move together. And that's really what we've been doing. And that's kind of my point. My point is that now we have the whole explosion of the gender wars in the diaspora, right? And then we bring that to the continent, and do our brothers then say, oh, well, you see, because I don't like the representation that us as Hebrew women are moving like those who have been depicted in all the social media posts, because Sister Shara is not that way. Sister Princess isn't that way. Sister Patea, myself, we're not that way. And so many of our sisters, just like this beloved sister who passed away, whose life was taken from her, are not that way. And so we are the ones that need to know that we can move together, whether we're married or unmarried, because so many of our sisters are not married. So many of our sisters never got married, or their husbands are deceased. We have older mothers that want to be able to go to the continent and know that they're going to be protected. So it has to be a mental and a spiritual shift inside of us that says the same fortitude that we had together to get out of the bondage of the slave plantation is the same mental unification that we're going to have if we're going to the continent. We're going to have to look out for one another. So
yeah.
Go ahead, Brother Michael. Did you want to add to that? And then I want to move on to another thing that I think is...
Yeah, well, we at Q2UA, that's one thing we started to notice. It was like last year. We started to know that we started looking at the channels of different YouTubers were saying, this is the reason why they left Tanzania. This is the reason why I left Ghana. This is the reason why I left. But when we boiled it down to, we started to see it was majority of people that was going there by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the brothers and sisters got in trouble at the ports when they have shipping containers being shipped there. They find themselves in a difficult situation. And so we just like, hey, we need to start letting brothers and sisters know we need to move as a group.
Yes.
As a group. I mean, it serves as a protection.
Yeah.
Period. That's what it serves as.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think for both of us, because as women, we're very intuitive. And so we can see oftentimes something that's going to happen based off of a person's, just their character, their facial expressions, something in their voice inflection that says, I'm not so sure about that. So I think we have to learn how to operate out of each other's strengths in order for us to be able to flourish in the continent. And if we can do that together, then we have a much better chance of being able to exist on the continent outside of the Western mindset framework. So I love this conversation. I'm so excited, that we're able to have these deeper conversations. We're going to address this huge issue because it is very problematic for many of our brothers and sisters who are even moving together, but they're having issues pertaining to immigration. So I want us to watch a little bit of this video right here.
I left and I wanted to tell you guys and share with you the honest reasons on why I left Tanzania and why I'm not going back.
I am leaving here and I'm going somewhere else. And I don't recommend anybody else come to Tanzania at all.
Two of the reasons that led to the conclusion that we weren't going to stay in Tanzania
It froze out, Sister Ashanda. Still there?
are business opportunities and immigration. When it comes,
and I can understand these are individuals who've uprooted themselves from their comfortable homes in the US. They've got family. And to make your way to Africa obviously requires such commitment. And we really must appreciate where they are coming from. This is this is difficult. This is difficult, and I totally get it. Hello and welcome to the channel. This is Africa Our Business. We try our best to make the issues of the continent and diaspora relevant to you and to us, to make things work for our own benefit as African people, wherever we are. If you're here for the first time, do the magic, subscribe, like, as well as ring that bell. But let's get into the meat of this. Many African Americans traveling to the continent are getting really disappointed, and it appears the biggest challenge that they are facing is immigration. Are African countries really handling this properly? Freedom chasers, Lala, and um, and Tyler obviously facing difficult times. Let's listen in and just have a candid discussion on some of the issues that face them that need urgent attention if Africa is to really make good meaning of the idea of the year of return, or inviting our brothers and sisters to come back home, either to invest, to pilgrimage, or to relocate altogether. Please check this out.
When it comes to immigration, there are just things that they put up to make it more difficult for you to be able to stay.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've talked about it before that American passports, if you have an American passport, you have to leave every 3 months.
Yeah.
So that brings up a financial issue. How much are you going to pay to leave? You're going to take a plane, a train, a bus. What are you going to do? What hotel are you going to stay at? Do you have somebody you can stay with when you leave? All of these times throughout your year visa.
Yeah.
And with that comes, you know, different scams. There's a lot of people who say that they can get you a visa stamp for whatever. And we've just heard of a lot of people losing a lot of money doing that. And also, you don't want to be doing things that are probably not like above board when you're messing around in another country. Nobody wants to see what a Tanzanian prison is like.
We've also heard stories of couples going to the airport and finding out that their passport or their stamp isn't stamped correctly and end up having to leave and given a certain amount of time to leave, which can make it very difficult for people because like we know we're not going out there, the diaspora a lot of times not going out there with a lot of money. So
and if you know, got a place and you got furniture and whatever, and then you go to travel or anything and you get there and they're like, oh, your stamps aren't right, you have this much time to leave. Okay, well, how do you sell your stuff? How do you what do you do? You know, it just makes a problem.
Or they just charge you a whole bunch of money that you have to pay all at once while you're at the airport just to leave, which is very inconvenient and not suitable for us.
Like if you want to stay here just to touch ground in Africa, you know, then yeah, come to TZ to get that continent out of your system first time dropping down. You know, do it. But after that, it's a no for me. It's a no. And I feel like it should be a no for everybody else until they get their stuff together. For one.
Okay, and if you want to see that video, more of that video, I will put the description in the link. The link in the description, or actually in the comment section, for you all to see that. So these are some of the concerns of brothers and sisters who have actually gone there to live. This is specifically out of Tanzania. Now, we have to keep in mind that we're dealing with 54 different countries in the continent of Africa. So this is specifically with those who are dealing with immigration issues in Tanzania. Question Not Africa as an organization, you guys are dealing head on with some of the infrastructure issues that the continent is facing and how we can assist. But when it comes to being able to get our people there safely, that's also an endeavor that you all have. And what I'd like to know is, how do we approach that, considering that the laws are set up in the way that they are to keep us from being able to actually reside there in a way that's a lot easier? How do we deal with that?
What we are finding not only in Tanzania, not only in Rwanda. I'm also hearing some feedback out of Namibia, out of Ghana. We're finding overwhelmingly that moving as a business owner is one of the soundest strategy for people who are in a position to do so. So here at Question Night Africa, we are structuring legal entities to share that business ownership status for transitioning over, because there's something about the way that the continent looks at you as someone who is going to either bring foreign dollars into the nation. We got to keep in mind, these nations are impoverished, right? We are finding all types of evil practices with respect to the way that the people of the land are locked out of participating in international business. It is intricate, it is complex, and it is evil. And so we are structuring in such a way to share that access to the merchant class way of going over to the continent because it is more respected. But then there's also some methods from the standpoint of the NGO registration and being able to move through volunteer visas under NGO. Again, providing a bigger covering for the community to move strategically. Because I've heard the horror stories of the whole leave the country. That's not the way to go. And, you know, I had, before Question Night Africa ever existed, I consulted with Sister Siobhan with T3andMe. And I was asking her about it because one of my own clients immigrated that way to Panama, trying to get up out of here. She saw the building on fire. She said, "Oh, we got to go." She set up her business, immigrated her entire family to Panama. And so when I talked to Sister Siobhan about it, she was like, "That's exactly the way, sis. That is it." So our part of the wall is in the area of business and immigrating in connection to that business status.
I love it. I love it. So find the loophole, essentially connect with those who are doing business in TZ. Because like when Sister Siobhan was here and she talked about how with what their operations are, that they connect with the locals in order to be able to do business there in Tanzania. So that is what you all are endeavoring to do in that country. Is that the way it is in the other countries that are you finding the same immigration issues there as well?
I'm hearing the same exact thing strategically for Namibia, for Rwanda, for Ghana. And also keep in mind too, we work very closely with some professionals who are native to Ghana. And they are both confirming this pattern that we're seeing with the way that the governments are set up, and they move super slow. Oh my goodness. If you think the bureaucracy here in the United States is bad, it's frustrating.
Yeah, I can understand that. They could definitely be frustrating. But see, this is what you all are doing, because you see, we didn't just bring y'all on here to talk about what we in the diaspora are dealing with, our complications, but we're talking about forging ahead. We're talking about moving forward. And so with that in mind, I want to take this opportunity to talk about how we can do that with what you all are planning and what you're preparing for with the Invest in Africa seminar. I'd like to share that video really quickly. tonight we talked about a lot of the challenges that those of us in the diaspora are, looking at when we're talking about potentially going to the continent within this time frame of this year, next year. You all are working towards addressing these things. What can we look for with this conference, Brother Karras?
Yeah, absolutely. So just as Sister Shonda had stated, Invest in Africa seminar is what it is. You're investing your time, obviously, with the commitment of coming to the seminar, which will be held at March 31st at 11 a.m. That's Sunday, March 31st at 11 a.m. That's 4 weeks from today. And with that, we have dignitaries from Rwanda and Tanzania. And those dignitaries bring along with them the professional resources that's there that can help you to be able to connect your business strategy with someone there on the ground. It's not the fact that you're there and you hear presentations. No, you're there and you're actually connecting with folks that need those those investors, those inputs, and we want to be able to help to facilitate those communications, those relationships, and then be able to build upon those successes that will inevitably occur from these seminars. So, with that, we're in a negotiation with a very high level dignitary that has committed to supporting Quest 2 Night Africa, which is extraordinary. And, what we're looking at, it's not just Tanzania and Rwanda, but this is East Africa, right? The nations talk, the dignitaries, they talk, the lawmakers, they talk. And see, what we've learned here in the United States and in the West particularly is that we've learned that lawmakers don't benefit us, they don't do anything for us. Now we have to understand that on the flip side, especially on the continent, that's also the same to a degree. But the people on the ground, they want us to be there to provide that expertise of how to do business, how to manage, how to do things efficiently. They have all the resources in the world, but efficiency is something that they are still trying to ascertain. There was a story recently of someone that I know. They had purchased land in a country, 10 acres. They spent about $1,000. They were able to talk to someone that they had a relationship with, that had a relationship, that has a relationship with a village elder. And that elder was gracious enough to allow for the purchase of the 10 acres, $1,000. I was told by this gentleman that when he was told that the harvest was coming in and that they were getting ready to harvest, the problem with them getting ready to harvest was that they found gold in the area, and that area happened to be in the land that he had just purchased. So imagine that you're thinking that you're getting ready to, reap an investment of a harvest of corn, and then now folks are trying to figure out what to do with a potential gold mine. And let me tell you this is one of the most staggering things. We know that gold right now is going for well over $2,000 an ounce. They are selling that for less than 5% of that market value. Less than 5%. Can you imagine that they don't really even know the value of what they have access to? This is what we deal with. We deal with these stories. We deal with folks finding mountains of cobalt, coltan, chromium, and they're wanting to do business with us. And they're doing business with us right now. We're not here trying to say, well, you know what? Invest, 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 and get rich, get rich. No.
Mm.
The biggest investment, quote unquote, is investing your time with somebody on the continent that can help you attain what you're trying to attain. The relationship is always bigger than any resource that you think you may have. This brother, he first had the relationship and understood the relationship in that connection so that he could then be able to purchase the land through that connection that had been there for a couple of years. And so it's literally getting the approval from the chief based on the relationship. And and see, the funny thing is, it's funny how the Most High how he does things. He was thinking about a corn investment, and then the Most High blessed him with gold. Talk about being a black leprechaun.
That's funny.
Oh, man, ain't right. Man, need help.
I was waiting for it. But you know,
be more than corn.
what you can look forward to at the conference. But listen, I love what you're saying because it's not just about investing money, right? It's about being able to invest in the continent, the people. It's about the very things that we're talking about tonight, having those conversations, taking that step of faith out there. And it is so important. And no, we are not the only ones who want to see us come together. We are by far not the only ones who want to see us come together and unify. As a matter of fact, I saw a powerful video, very powerful video by a woman by the name of Dr. Ericana. Okay. And I want to share this with you because she is an incredible woman who has been doing an amazing work on the continent and throughout the diaspora. And her words, they're electrifying. Take a listen.
If I may stop for a second, use Israel as an example and the Jewish people. The Jewish people own this little bitty tiny little piece of land, which is a desert. There's only 15 million Jews around the world compared to Africa. We have the largest landmass on earth, richest continent on earth, and over 400 million African diaspora. The Jews, their little bitty country that is a desert, financially, they control the world, whether you like it or not. When those Americans in Charlottesville were holding their tiki torches, talking about the Jews will not replace us, you never saw a single Jewish man on television complaining. They complain with their finances. Their dollars speak for them. Jews do not go and borrow money from anybody. They fund themselves. They're probably the most powerful people financially. Their money speaks for them. What do we do instead when George Floyd gets killed and many others? We're on the street, we make noise, and that's it. If everybody that protested could put $1 and say, yes, we want to protest, but we're also going to do something about it, now we could get somewhere. We could get somewhere. Translate those voices into finances. Let's make that bridge. Let's create that bridge. Let's take a page from the Jews. Let's understand that as Black people, we are the most endangered species on earth. Let's also make a commitment that how long are we going to allow this carnage to go on? How long are we going to continue to be stupid? Allow me to share with you briefly that in 1945, 13 Jewish men met in the library. They didn't even have a place to meet. This was soon after Holocaust. The ideas they came up with during that meeting were based on two facts, two realizations that there was a need for them to unite, for them to speak with one voice when it comes to issues pertaining to them and their country. They also realized that their unity was useless if they did not back it up with financial resources. So that is all they did. They united. They said, we may not like each other as individuals, but when it comes to their Jewishness, when it comes to Israel, they stick together like super glue. They also pulled out their financial resources. It's about the finances, my brothers and sisters. If we do not bring our finances together, if we do not understand that my $85 a month for a year is an investment in not only myself, but my children, my grandchildren, and generations to come, then who are we? What is the solution? Understand that the brain drain out of Africa started over 400 years ago with the children of Africa who were being taken out of Africa as slaves. Remember, when they were choosing which Africans to take out as slaves, they chose the fittest, the smartest, that who they felt would sustain and survive the rigorous journey across the Atlantic, followed by those who have left Africa in recent years in search of greener pastures, some running away from famine and wars. But the end result is Africans around the world are building other nations while we are allowing our beloved continent to languish or be exploited. The colonizers have been in Africa for centuries. All they have succeeded at doing is building infrastructure designed to do nothing but extract resources out of Africa. That's all they have done, and that's all they plan to continue to do. We're the only ones who can change that paradigm. And that means the African diaspora must wake up. That means the African diaspora must understand what is really going on and not understand Africa from the eyes of the colonizers, from the eyes of the media that have chosen to paint Africa as a diseased and dying continent in need of rescue. Let's understand our Africa as African diaspora. Let's understand our role. It's very difficult for African businessmen in Malawi, in Botswana, to think continental. They're struggling to make a living in that little bitty country with all the restrictions and the difficulties of reaching to the country next door, to then ask that same businessman to think continental. But the people who can help with that bridge, the people who are already integrated in a way, people who can come to Africa with an integrated mind, are the children of Africa in the diaspora. Like I said before, $1 million diaspora with $1,000, that's $1 billion. $1 billion is a lot of money. And then you take that 1 billion, let's do it a year in and year out. Financial resources, we need to pull our funds together. We need to begin to look at our continent as a continent. What do the market women in Africa need today? How do we begin to make it possible for a market woman in Nigeria to sell to the market woman in Kenya what she cannot find in Kenya, but it's in Nigeria? How do we begin to loosen those trade barriers? It's a level one. I'm hoping that the African Continental Free Trade Area can begin to address those issues, but looking at what we have right now, when you see countries still blocking borders, still making it difficult for Africans to travel freely around the continent, all of our challenges, if you begin to understand them, they all go back to the mind. We must open up our Africa. We need a single African currency. It's just that simple. We can't talk about the AFCFTA and still have 44 different currencies. We can't talk about a single Africa if we still have to carry a passport to travel around our country. We can't talk about progress within Africa if we still are having to fight all these various wars in the different countries as little bitty different military. Africa needs to truly begin to look at what are the needs of the continent. How do we move 1.27 billion people? Let's have a strategy for that. How do we feed 1.27 billion people? Let's have a strategy for that. How do we house? How do we clothe 1.27 billion people? That thinking outside the box is what's really going to give us the results that we desire. But as long as Togo is strategizing for Togo, as long as Djibouti is strategizing for Djibouti, we are defeated before the game even begins. And that's exactly where they want us to be. That's exactly where they put us with the Berlin Conference. And that's why it saddens me to think of 130 years later since the Berlin Conference, we're still suffering from the effects of the Berlin Conference. So again, our challenges, while there are many, there are challenges that we can address. But for us to be able to address these simple challenges, like border issues, need for a passport, single currency, single monetary policy, single stock exchange, basic things that we should just do automatically. It goes back to the mind because we get so divided. The French are coming in. If you're Francophone, so to speak, why do we even call ourselves Francophone? If we're Anglophone, look at ECOWAS and the ECO in West Africa. They can't come to an agreement on something that is so obvious and so terribly needed. I don't want to sound like a broken record. Our problem goes back to the mind. Our ability to solve our problems, it starts with the mind. I'm sorry to say, but it is saddening, it is disappointing, it is frustrating. And as a mother, you look at it and say, my children, what happened? Why can't we wake up from this slumber? Why can't we wake up and say enough is enough? We got to come together. We got to trust each other. And we've got to protect and defend each other against these invaders. How long are we going to continue to mistrust each other, to not believe in each other? How long are we going to continue to be stupid and continue to do the same things over and over and expecting a different result? Albert Einstein called it insanity. I would hope we can all look in the mirror and say insanity no more. Prior to independence,
I believe that Dr. Arakana's words were extremely powerful. They were reminiscent to me of the reason why we're here tonight. You see, Quest to Unite Africa has been given the mandate by the Most High to forge a relationship, communication with our continental brothers and sisters. And when I think of what we've been through and what they've been through, I see this passage here in Ezekiel 37. The hand of Yahuwah was upon me and carried me out in the spirit of Yahuwah and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones, and caused me to pass by them round about. And behold, there were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Yahuwah Elohim, thou knowest. Again he said unto me, prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of Yahuwah. Thus saith Yahuwah Elohim unto these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and you shall live. And I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you and cover you with skin and put breath in you, and ye shall live, and ye shall know that I am Yahuwah. So I prophesied as I was commanded. And as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. Then said he unto me, prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim, come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived and stood up upon their feet, an exceeding great army. Then he said unto me, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they said, our bones are dried, and our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim, behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. And ye shall know that I am Yahuwah when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you out of your graves, and shall put my spirit in you, and you shall live, and I shall place you in your own land. Then shall you know that I, Yahuwah, have spoken it and performed it, saith Yahuwah.
Hallelujah.
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 I am so encouraged by what the Most High is doing through all of you. And even with the obstacles, we know that whether we're in the diaspora, in the West, we're in the Caribbean, we're in Asia, wherever it is that we have been displaced, that the Most High will call the four winds. He will regather us. And that is the commission that he's given you at Quest to Unite Africa. And I believe in that vision. I believe that the Most High is using you as he's using our brother and sister T3 and me, the Dry Bones Project, shout out to Tail Ministries, Stepping Stones to Home and Journey with Us, and so many others to make an incredible impact so that all of us may become one, rise up as an army. We know anything about an army, that military presence is to be revered. We know that we, Judah, are the scepter the Most High is going to use in order to bring and bridge the gap between us and our brothers, Ephraim, for the household, the whole house of Yasharel. So with that in mind, I want to give y'all an opportunity, Brother Karaser, whoever it is that you delegate, to say some final words about what it is that Yah is doing through you all at this time, and any information that is necessary and pertinent for our audience so that they can register for this conference and any other pertinent information.
I will pass that to Brother Walt. Go ahead, Brother Walt.
Thank you, bro, Karis. um, the thing is, our goal for this, excuse me, for this seminar is to connect you all with the proper, give you all the proper channels to, you know, get moved on the continent, as as far as with businesses and whatnot and investments. You can go to www.quest2uniteafrica.org. That's Quest, the number two, Unite Africa with a K.org, and sign up.
All right. Thank you, Brother Walt. Yeah, just to reiterate on Brother Walt's words, we're excited about this because we're living in some exciting times. You know, there's a lot of deception on out there in terms of, oh, well, they don't want us here or they don't want us there. That's a lie. That's a lie straight from the pit of hell. And, when you visit the website, when you see what we've been able to do, the mink kits and all of the other programs that we've been able to provide with building the relationships on the ground, that is a value that's tremendous. You know, the West wants to say your value is in your resources and the things that you have. That's a lie. The value is in the relationship with the people. Because at the end of the day, when scripture is fulfilled, we're all going to be coming back together. That's how that's going to go. So, again, please join us on March 31st at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's March 31st at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can sign up for the event at quest2uniteafrica.org. And I'd like to also say thank you to Sister Ashanda for hosting us um, tonight. You know, I had to get a couple cups of coffee because I'm way past my bedtime. And, you know, I've been getting texts that folks are clowning me because, yeah, I was hitting the snooze button a little bit. But
We're proud of you.
hallelujah.
I'm very grateful to have been able to speak with all of you tonight. Incredible minds, love Yah, and are walking by faith and not by sight and doing his great work. So with that in mind, everyone, I want to thank y'all so much for tuning in tonight, and definitely go to the website, register for the conference, and also be prepared because the Most High is moving, as I told you all, in a supernatural way in this day and this time. It's not always going to look the way we think it's going to look, but he is moving nevertheless. So thank y'all so much for joining us tonight. And we look forward to seeing you all again. Thank you so much for those of you who continue to support this platform. We ask that you continue to do so, and you can do so through Cash App, through PayPal, Super Chat, Super Sticker, and Super Thanks. So thank you again for being here. And as always, family, love yourselves without hating your enemies. And until next time, Yah bless and Salam.